Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if I got my top five predictions correct this weekend, and then make predictions for next week's top five. So let's get right on into it. Last weekend, I predicted that number one would be Thor: Love and Thunder. Number two would be Minions: The Rise of Gru. Number three would be Top Gun: Maverick. Number four would be Elvis, and number five would be Jurassic World Dominion. And of course, I got all five of my predictions right because this was a pretty easy weekend to predict. I can already say next weekend will not be as easy for a couple different reasons, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But this weekend is pretty simple. You have a big Marvel movie coming out. There's probably not a whole lot else coming out, too. So let's just get right on into it. Number one was, of course, Thor: Love and Thunder, making $143 million domestically on a budget of $250 million, which is already a pretty fantastic start. Worldwide, it is sitting at a total of $302 million. So this is, a pretty usual kind of MCU number. You very rarely will get the MCU movie that dips below like 100 million these days. And those are kind of maybe reserved for like a newer character that they might have introduced. But even then, even that's kind of a little rare because I remember Captain Marvel even debuted pretty high in the 100 mils. That was, of course, during the hype of Avengers Endgame, obviously, but, we don't need to talk too much about all of that because this is still a pretty great number. It opened higher than when Thor Ragnarok did the last time Taika Waititi worked on a Thor movie. That was like a $120 million opening. So, great sign that people are still interested in this character, still willing to show up. Obviously, I'm going to be expecting a pretty big drop next weekend, about 50%, a little over, because that's how most of these do. We'll talk about that with the number two spot. Domestically, it has already outgrossed the Incredible Hulk's 134 million total run, which is to be expected because the Incredible Hulk was a big flop. I believe the biggest commercial and financial failure for the MCU. It is 33 million away from outgrossing Captain America: The First Avenger, and then it'll continue to rise the ranks. And then worldwide, it has already outgrossed the Incredible Hulk's 265 million and 68 million from outgrossing The First Avengers. So we'll see how high this movie grosses. The budget looking at 250 million. I was surprised to see that because Doctor Strange is only 200 million. I was really surprised to see this one as the little bit 250. Not that that's a bad thing, just in the sense that these movies make a bunch of money, and right now it will definitely be able to double that. It might not get to a billion, but it'll at least get very close. But I was just very surprised to see that because most of the, like, unless it's like the big team up movie, that's when the 250 kind of comes in. But for a solo movie, this is kind of rare, I think. Number two, we have Minions: The Rise of Gru, which dropped a little, around 57%, making $45 million this weekend. But that still adds to a domestic total of $210 million, which passes Sing 2's 162 domestic run and The Secret Life of Pets 2's 158 million run. It is 4 million away from outgrossing The Lorax, but it is making its way through the Illumination ranks worldwide. It is at 399 million, 1 mil away from 400 million worldwide. It has passed The Lorax's 355 million, opposite of where it is on the domestic list for Illumination, and it is 3 million away from outgrossing Sing 2. So hopefully all you gentle minions out there still support this movie and keep going out to see it in your fancy suits, motherfuckers. Coming in at number three, we have Top Gun: Maverick, making $15 million. This adds to a domestic total of $597 million. Not only, is it 3 million away from getting to 600 million, that's quite incredible, but also if you look at the all-time domestic run chart, it is 11 million away from outgrossing Incredibles 2's overall run, and then it will get close to entering the top 10 highest grossing domestic runs of all time, which is incredible to think that the sequel to Top Gun did this. Like I said last week, I knew it would probably do really well when it first came out, but the fact that it has had this great staying power since it has released at the end of May, this is astonishing work. Worldwide, it is sitting at $1,141 million. That's 2 million away from outgrossing Aquaman for the all-time worldwide charts. This is still pretty fucking incredible. It's not close. If I remember correctly, the chart, it wasn't close to like a top 10. It was like 20 or so. But still, that is, beyond incredible that, like I said, the sequel to Top Gun is doing this, that Tom Cruise still has that kind of star power to keep this shit going. Number four, we have Elvis making $11 million. That adds to a domestic total of $91 million. 9 million away from 100 million domestically is not bad at all. It is 53 million away from outgrossing Baz's The Great Gatsby. I'm not sure if it will get there just because the domestic intake has decreased significantly. So worldwide, it is sitting at $155 million. It did pass Romeo and Juliet's 147 run, and it is 24 million away from outgrossing Moulin Rouge, which I think is a little more achievable than outgrossing the domestic run of The Great Gatsby. So still doing all right. It is 15 million away from doubling that $85 million budget. So it's for sure going to do that, and they will at least have that kind of success to their name. Like I said last week, I think every kind of producer, actor, whatever behind these new kind of singer, musician biographies is expecting the slam dunk smash hit that was Bohemian Rhapsody, and not everything can be that. And I think a lot of people's attention has kind of waned from that, especially since the pandemic, since Bohemian Rhapsody came out. So either way, this movie's still doing fine, despite the fact that it might not be as big a grosser as something else. Elvis is a much better movie than Bohemian Rhapsody. But let's move on. Number five, we have Jurassic World Dominion making $8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $350 million. It is 52 million away from outgrossing the original Jurassic Park. Worldwide, it is sitting at 876 million, and that is 169 million away from outgrossing the original Jurassic Park. I feel like the chances of this film outgrossing not just the original park but any of the other Jurassic World films is very slim to none now. I think it's starting to die off, and I don't think it's going to outgross the original at all. And I never really thought it had a chance to outgross the first Jurassic World, but maybe there was a chance to get to Fallen Kingdom just because the opening weekend for Dominion was not too far off. But now it's looking like it's not going to get that close. But it's still fine because this movie has made a lot of money. But I believe, it's probably not even going to get to $1 billion unless there's a couple more places it needs to release worldwide. But I don't know. Unless that is the case, I just don't see that happening. Like I said, this franchise is kind of built on diminishing returns, still doing well, but very much so Star Wars kind of syndrome in that case, where they still made a lot of money, but you can see the kind of decline, at least in like the Skywalker, sequel trilogy stuff. Number six, we have The Black Phone making $7 million, adding to a domestic total of 62 million. That is 13 million away from outgrossing The Exorcism of Emily Rose, one of Scott Derrickson's previous films. I think it definitely has the opportunity to do so. I think we will be seeing that either next week or the weekend after that. Worldwide, it is sitting at 99 million, as Scott Derrickson even pointed out on Twitter. Like by tomorrow, this will be at $100 million worldwide, which for a budget of 17 million is pretty fucking fantastic. It still has 45 million to go to outgross Emily Rose worldwide, but it did just slip past Sinister and Deliver Us from Evil's overall run. So I'm sure Scott Derrickson must be very happy with that. I think this movie still has some ways to go before we can firmly decide like it has no chance of outgrossing anything else. I haven't even checked the Blumhouse ones because going through like the Blumhouse charts is like kind of a nightmare because there's just so many fucking movies and they all kind of make the same. It's hard to like pick out like, oh fuck, it's not worth it. I know I'm not doing my job in that case by not being exactly thorough, but I mean shit. you try it, goddammit. Number seven, we have Lightyear making 2 million, adding to a domestic total of 112 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 204 million. This is the movie that is currently struggling to surpass The Good Dinosaurs, not just domestic run, but worldwide one. Domestically 11 million and then worldwide 129. That's quite embarrassing. And I hate to say like, it's deserved, and I'm not going to say that because there's a lot of hardworking people that do, put work into this film. But it just, when I saw it, it definitely reeked as like, this is nothing but like they're trying to make bank on this recognizable IP. It's very cynical, soulless, and I'm not really getting anything out of this like I do the other Toy Story films. So I am happy just in the sense that it kind of it at least justifies my point of view that the original Toy Story films, can't be topped and they're, great and there's no need to maybe do these spin-off stuff. But at the same time, yeah, you got to feel bad for the talented artists that put a lot of hard work into this. This movie isn't completely devoid of creativity or talent, even if I had thoughts on it that were a little more mediocre. Number eight, we have Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, swapping out the A24 film from last weekend, which was Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie, I believe it's going wide next weekend, but I'm not sure if a lot of people know about this movie or will even, like, they know about it, but they might be like, I don't know about that. Maybe word of mouth can help, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I just don't see, if it is indeed going wide next weekend, like, one site told me. I'm not sure if it can make a dent in the top five, especially with how, theater audiences are nowadays. But it did make $340,000, adding to a domestic total of 963,000. So a couple thousand away from getting to a million at least. I'm not sure what the budget is that's unreleased at this time. I'm sure because it is A24, it is rather low, but I guess we'll see until a more official number comes out. Maybe this will be the movie that next weekend it explodes and it's like the surprise hit of the summer. We'll see. It will see in time. Number nine is still Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness from last weekend, making $262,000, adding to a domestic total of $411 million. So that is fantastic. It is still behind Captain Marvel, and at this point, it's definitely not going to do so, especially worldwide, even sitting at 953. But you know what? Not bad at all. This movie is about to leave the top 10, but it had a really fantastic run. Number 10, closing it out, Mr. Malcolm's List, not even sticking around at like the number 8 spot. It made 245,000 this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 1.6 million. There is no worldwide numbers released, and there is no budget released, so I don't know how it's doing overseas, and I also don't know, what the budget is to see how it's doing right now with these numbers. Kind of a bummer. Like I said last week, and it's a delightful movie. I hope, people get a chance to see it at some point. It's looking like it's slipping out of theaters because, last weekend it was Minions, and now this weekend it's Thor. And next weekend there isn't like a big tentpole IP like that, but the weekend after that, Jordan Peele is going to dominate the box office, which that's fantastic, just in the sense that it's an original film. People will go because it's Jordan Peele. You can maybe say it's like a brand in that sense, but it's still an original film that people will, go out in droves to see just based off of Get Out and Us. So that I'm at least anticipating. I just really, yeah, like I have kind of alluded to, and I've always kind of talked about, I do kind of, as much as I enjoy a lot of these IPs, I just really hate that they overshadow a lot of these other films that normally would do okay, or, just a little better than what, these other low placing movies have done, like the hundred thousands. Jesus Christ. But anyways, it's time for the predictions for next week's top five. And like I said last weekend, if you got your predictions right for this week, your shout out is going to be flashed up on the screen. It's just a simple little screenshot of your comment. If you got the predictions right for this weekend, congrats to you. Let's see what we do this weekend, because I don't think it'll be as easy, because out of the new releases that we have, I think some will not make it into the top five, and I don't think they'll make it that high up, just judging by what other movies have done when they were released. Not a lot of movies get a lot of high numbers unless they are part of an IP. So my predictions are that number one will be Thor Love and Thunder. I think that'll hold over well. And even though Minions dropped by over 50%, I think that'll still hold strong at number two. Then number three, Where the Crawdads Sing, that's the safest bet for like the highest grossing new release next weekend, because it is based off a book, a really popular book that has a fan base. But I don't think, it'll translate into ticket sales equal to that of Minions or Thor on their opening weekends. And then number four, I have Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank. This is an animated film that I don't think many people will be going to see. I know I'm probably not going to be seeing it. I'm not making plans to. But because it is an animated family film, I think it will at least have a chance to squeak into the top five. But it'll be one of those animated movies that squeaks in, but it doesn't make a whole lot. Not like your Pixar's or regular Disney or DreamWorks or Illumination. And then number five, I think we have Top Gun Maverick. I think that'll still hold over strong. Miss Harris Goes to Paris, or I think that's the title of the movie. I don't think that really has a chance of sneaking in. I think that will get below the top five. And like I said, I just don't think that many people know much about Marcel the Shell with Shoes On that it will get into the top five. But like I said, we will see. What are your predictions for next week's top five? Leave them in the comments below. And if you get them right, you will get a shout out like you did if you got them right this weekend. And if you didn't, hey, there's always next time. We'll see how everyone does then. We'll see how I do then. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.